Hey guys, welcome back to not another episode of Tips and Advice, because as you can see here, I have another guest with me. So I've got here Yasir from MicroPharm, who you might have seen on my Instagram page, Aamir.phd here, and for the first time ever, MicroPharm over here. And I've been his videographer for the past couple of months, but today I have brought him along on my channel for the sole purpose, unfortunately, of roasting me as a PhD student when I was, and now a PhD researcher, and now a postdoc. So the whole culmination of research stuff, he is going to roast me about, which I'm not looking forward to. So, firstly, we're going to have a bit of an introduction for yourself in regards to research, and then, unfortunately, you're going to take out your phone, and he's going to roast me.
So the main thing I want to say here is these roasts don't come from me. So our challenge was to dig out as many roasts about each other's profession and role.
Our challenge? Was it our challenge?
Yeah,
okay.
Our challenge.
We'll come back to that later. We'll come back to that later.
I said our challenge, then I didn't get time, and then Aamir did all of the research for both of our sides, which is why you're still hired.
People now,
you still got work.
What can I do? You know.
So
I'm elongating the pain that's about to come, but without further ado.
So I didn't get time. I was at the hospital all day.
Yeah, he had a lot on, I'll be honest. If you actually want to see that, part 1 is in the description box below, which we didn't start with. And we'll talk about what I roasted him about in terms of being a pharmacist. And now we're doing the reversal in this part 2 episode.
So we're going to go through some comments that PhD students may be familiar with. And we're going to see your reaction initially and your explanation. So the first comment is, why did you do a PhD? Because you couldn't get into medicine.
Why do you have to start with that one? How much that pains. Now, I'll be honest, when I've spoken to a lot of medical students, funny enough, they said the opposite. It's like, I'm glad you've done a PhD. And I was surprised because I was built up with this culture. When I was doing my PhD about, you failed to get into medicine, or, you couldn't get into medicine, which hurts, right? Because sometimes some people genuinely do, but they enjoy research, or some people just like the notion of being a researcher and having a doctorate in a specialized field. So, funnily enough, the word, or the title of doctorate, of being a doctor, was actually given to PhDs first. Then, as they were mandated to be called a doctor, and then later on in life, doctor were given to the medical title. So, even though people don't agree, and we built up this culture that a doctor is a medical doctor, which is fair enough, understandable, but the actual title of the doctor was given to PhD graduates and, great thinkers back in the day. So, saying that I was a failed doctor technically is like the other way around, if you think about it, right? Ooh. Medical students are actually failed PhD graduates. Now, you didn't think of that, did you? See? There you go. But it does hurt sometimes when I was being a PhD student. But now as a postdoc and, being in the research in different areas, you become more true to yourself. You become more, happy that, I love research. I didn't want to do medicine, or, I'm glad I'm advancing a cause in, when I was in my postdoc, it was severe asthma. And I was advancing the cause of immunotherapy, which we talked about in part 1 episode. So it doesn't faze me as much, but it did. It did when I was a bit younger.
Okay, next one. You're called a doctor, but the only thing you do is read papers.
Oh my days, man. Seriously? I get this a lot, because a lot of people say, you're a PhD, but then literally what that he just said, all you do is read and then put reports together and write papers. That is a part, but the amount of thinking that goes into designing experiments to advance a certain cause or advance a field in science, right? It's not just about the medical field, even though we're in that area. It's about people in tech, people in art and design, people in business, policy. I made this statement that everything you see around you, so the camera we're recording this on, the light boxes that we have, the chairs we're sitting on, the contact lenses that I have, the watch that I've gotten, all came from a form of research, right? So even though people have written papers and all they do is read, that leads to significant innovation in life, right? All around us. That's why I'm still so passionate about research, that everything we see around us, even the clothes that we're wearing, came from some sort of iteration to either make clothes faster, make them more reliable, make them more, tougher, make them look better, make them more resilient. So that's to do with textile fabrics and material science, policies right now. We're talking about, the energy crisis. There's people who are PhD graduates looking at policy making and policy changing to what is the best algorithm to use to help the most amount of people. That's machine learning. You've got people in the actuarial sciences. There's research in literally everything. And they might be writing papers, but they do cause change. So,
I guess it stems to the fact that the papers themselves are the foundation that others use to build.
Yeah, it's a whole iterative cycle of people learn from one another. It's a whole advancement of knowledge. When I did my PhD, I was basing my research on papers from 2003, and I did start my PhD in 2014. And then now people in my postdoc, when I finished a couple of months ago, are now basing that work on a couple of years ago, and that cycle continues. So, although technically it's true, those papers do change the course of history in terms of many different disciplines from time to time.
And even in practice, in many cases, we depend on that research to know what we're doing with our patients.
True. Actually, to add to that, I'm glad you said that, because we talked about immunotherapy in part 1's episode, and when I did my postdoc, we were looking at immunotherapy and how it can improve the life of people who have severe asthma. And just a bit of a crash course, they depend on steroids, and they have too much steroids, causes a lot of side effects. But then immunotherapy, which came from research, which came from people publishing papers, changed the life of people who are severe asthmatics, who are cancer patients, who have arthritis, who have certain eye disorders. The advancement of immunotherapy, which is now a very incredible therapy to use across the board of the NHS and worldwide, came from research. It came from people publishing papers. So yeah, if that is a bad thing, then I don't mind. I'll continue to do it.
So here's another comment that you've probably received.
Mm.
Oh, you're doing a PhD. You don't have to sit any exams. Sounds brilliant.
This aggravates me a lot, right? Because when I first started my PhD, people that we were demonstrating in the labs, that we were helping biomedical science students, do their experiments when they were in the undergraduate courses. And then they used to ask us, because some people didn't know what PhDs were, and then naively you would ask what Yasir just said is, oh, so you don't have exams at the end of the year. And sometimes you can't, cause problems, but sometimes you want to you just want to get so aggravated, how dare you say that, number one. And number two, you go do a PhD and I'll do your thing and see how you find it, right? So again, it's come to the lack of clarity and information and awareness about what a PhD is. You're constantly doing work from Monday to Sunday sometimes. I talked about this a lot on my channel, which a lot of you might know. And you don't realise that exams is something you would love to have because it kind of finishes something. But PhD is 4 years long of you being independent, you controlling the entire experiments, you managing everything. And it sounds easy, but believe me, as Yasir probably knows from my time being a PhD student, it's not easy. And exams is something that we will laugh at, not in a derogatory way, but in the notion of when you finish the exam, that's it, done. But we have to do 4 years of work for one exam at the end. And if we don't have enough data in that 4 years, then we're screwed. So yeah, not a great comment, and I really hate that.
So this is a comment that, although you did the research for, I know a lot of people that say this, that have done a PhD.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people that explain how important this consideration is, and that's you do a PhD to acquire new knowledge, to find out that what you found is insignificant.
Do you know why I'm laughing? Because this actually is related to my own PhD, if I'm being candidly honest. And it's so I learned a lot in my PhD. It helped me to get to my postdoc, and who knows now what the future holds in terms of research for me. But in terms of the findings that I got from my PhD, I can candidly say, this is probably the first time I've said it openly in public, probably didn't advance that area of medicinal chemistry, pharmacology, polyphenols research, anti-angiogenic therapy that significantly. Because I didn't pursue it anymore. I knew it was kind of like a dead end to say. What I got more out of the PhD was how to be a researcher, how to think like a researcher, experiments, time management, project management, how to start and finish an entire proposal of research. So I can say with my PhD, I got some great findings, but compared to the research that I've seen now in my lifetime and people that I know doing research, unfortunately my PhD wasn't that huge, And it kind of sucks because I went through hell to get my PhD. I've mentioned it, it's one of the main videos on my channel. But I know from the research side, there could have been more advances. So yeah, that one stings, but it's true.
Although this one probably stings as well, someone has to do it. If your findings are not great, someone has to do it. to tell other people
exactly
not to do it.
No, I'm glad you said that, because I didn't even think. I'm so devastated with that comment because I didn't like hearing it. But it is, you're right, it is a process of elimination, right, where you've excluded an area now, so people don't need to go down, look at the certain compounds I did, because you might find something, you might iterate it, you might look at better drug delivery, fair enough, but as a compound, as a drug candidate, it's not actually great. Not to go into too much science in the detail, because this video will be about 3 hours long, but yeah, it wasn't too much. I don't think I advanced the field a whole deal, but it is what it is.
Okay, at this point, I know you are definitely passionate about. You are at the cutting edge of science. You're cultivating new paradigm-shifting ideas. Yet someone who is an Uber driver is making more money than you are. No offense to Uber drivers.
This is a reality. Many of you know the recent video I made about how I've struggled with research financially. Right, it hasn't been kind to me, and I laugh because it hurts so much, in the sense of I was working 15, 16 hours a day, leaving the lab at 3 in the morning, coming back at 6 in the morning to finish experiments before other people come in. And some people are just sitting in their car, taking a person from plan A to plan B, and life is good financially. There's a paycheck every month, where I've got drips and drabs at the time, so probably why I've become like a videographer, because it's a skill I learned, I've enjoyed doing it, I've enjoyed helping and learning from Yasir in terms of running MicroPharm. And I am a bit in that dilemma space about, do I do more content creation, or do I really go back into research properly, because PhD wasn't kind financially, my postdoc wasn't kind financially, and my second postdoc was not kind financially. So it's like, why am I fighting something that's just not great, So, and I speak on behalf of a lot of researchers, right? There are many who go into research-intensive unis, but they may come from a good background to help that case, right? If you do a PhD at a great university, that's going to increase your chances of publishing papers to then get you onto a good postdoc, etc. But I know people who are in that space who are not enjoying life because they don't have a social life. They're working Monday to Sunday. Now, and even as a pharmacist, I know you work till late. We don't work till 10 o'clock at night and then come by 8 o'clock in the morning and then work 10 o'clock at night, day in, day out, and you don't get paid for overtime, right? That concept is not even in research of you're expected to overwork, right? So, yeah, as you can tell, I'm passionate about, either changing that narrative or potentially not being a part of that narrative anymore, which is a sad story because I love research, but research has not been kind to me, unfortunately.
But if you also think about, and I say this all the time, if you also think about how many people are doing a PhD that need your advice.
True.
And that would happily invest in your time.
No, I'll be honest, I haven't said this openly as well. It's thanks to Yasir that it's given me the confidence to potentially do that, which is, I've learned a lot in my life. That's why I've made so many videos and so many Instagram posts, because there's a lot of advice I can share for those who do want to continue doing PhDs and at least make the best out of their PhD, irrespective of what they want to do afterwards. And I'm hoping that I can do that a lot further on this channel and to the guidance and tutelage of Yasir and many others. So yeah, let's see how that grows, but it does hurt still. Pay researchers more, man.
That's it. It makes it all easier.
Just,
if you actually paid more,
on,
you don't have to do.
I wouldn't have to do all of this, man. I would just enjoy.
I wouldn't have a videographer.
Yeah. So he probably doesn't want people to be paid, to be honest, right? Yeah. So it doesn't help everybody, right?
So the last one we're going to finish with is, what does PhD actually stand for? Permanent head damage.
Oh my goodness. This is bad because it's true. That's why it's bad. The reason why I put this in is that everybody has their own acronym of PhD, what PhD stands for. And the one that I chose when I was doing my PhD was this, because the sheer stress that I was under with my own scenario, I was not paid to do my PhD, I was not in a research active group, I was the only researcher, my mum was diagnosed with a very severe illness that I had to look after. So I was under a lot of stress, and then my supervisor unfortunately wasn't great at the time. She told me, maybe it's probably best you don't do a PhD, you finish as an MPhil. No disrespect to MPhil, but that's not why you start a PhD. So that permanent head damage did happen, because I still feel the effects of bad habits that I developed as a result of just being so stressed and anxious back in my PhD days that takes so many years to overcome and change. And although it hurts, it was a reality, and that's quite sad to hear that a lot of researchers have that problem, right? They have this notion of too much stress, too much problem with the supervisor, too much work, not enough pay that we just talked about. You know, you can't have social life, have to look after the work. Every single day you're anxious about cells or animal work or stuff that you're growing or stuff that you're developing. You can't sit still, you can't settle, you can't relax, you know. And I know you mentioned in one of the other videos that somebody me edited was about the notion of, you know, with other jobs when you're running MicroPharm, your latest vlog that you talked about, right? That you can't sit still. But with a PhD, you can't sit still, and then your livelihood is in tatters, because if the cells don't grow, then you've infected everything else, you've caused problems anywhere else. If the animal work wasn't maintained properly, you're screwed like many other students, patients' work. So there's a lot of stress to deal with on top of just doing your own PhD. So permanent head damage probably should be the acronym of PhD, I think, not philosophy. So
that's all I've got.
Right, so not too bad, but still brings back some bad memories. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, so it's very, very kind of you to take me down memory lane, or nightmare lane as I call it. But let me know if you want us to do more videos like this. It's great to have Yasir on the channel, and we might do some. We talked about, you know, doing a spelling bee for pharmacy, but we can even do a spelling bee for PhD in terms of all the chemicals that I've used in my lifetime, and some are not even English, I presume. But thank you for coming on board. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Do subscribe to MicroPharm and the Instagram page and TikTok page, which are very, very active. And we shall both hopefully see you guys in the next one. Do like and subscribe this video. Comment down below which one was your favourite nightmare or worst comment. I know which one was mine, but thanks again. But I shall see you all in the next one. Take care, and we shall all see you soon.
Thank you.